Thank you. Congratulations to our colleagues in KTU Korea for this huge win after 7 long years of struggle. We at Education International, with our member organizations, campaigned for their legal recognition, also with the support of our partners at ILO and the global unions. All workers have the right to organize, so this is a win for all teachers and all workers all around the globe, and this is a win for international solidarity. Friends and colleagues, like me, I'm sure you have been watching the live stream since morning and learning about incredible stories of teachers and unions from across the region, despite tremendous challenges posed by COVID-19. Now we turn to South Asia for a joint panel with the UNESCO Delhi office. The panelists will share their experiences from the region during the pandemic from the perspective of teachers and policymakers. What challenges the teachers and students are facing, and what kind of support the teachers need during this pandemic and other emergencies. We are joined by, for this panel, by policymakers, experts, practitioners, who will be sharing their experiences and challenges faced by the teachers and students and their responses to the support that they need. But before we go into the panel, let me invite the director and UNESCO representative at UNESCO Delhi Cluster Office for Bangladesh, Bhutan, India, Maldives, and Sri Lanka, Mr. Eric Falt, for an opening address. Director Eric Falt, the floor is yours.
A very warm welcome to everyone gathered here virtually. I'm delighted to be with you, and I hope everyone watching, of course, is in good health. Today, we have all gathered here for a very special occasion, and I would like to wish all the teachers a very happy World Teachers' Day. I salute all of you for the tremendous amount of hard work you have been putting through over the past years, and especially in these difficult times. We must remember that over the past 6 months, schools have not been closed, but only school buildings have been closed. The teachers and the staff have been working tirelessly to ensure that learning never stops. And I would like to assure all teachers that we realize the crucial role you're playing in every education system. I would also like to take this opportunity to make everyone aware about this important annual occasion that we're celebrating today. Each year on the 5th of October, UNESCO, in partnership with UNICEF, ILO, and Education International, celebrate the World Teachers' Day in order to bring attention to the importance of teachers at the global level. Every year, World Teachers' Day serves as a reminder to pay tribute to all the teachers who have made valuable contributions in building generations of youth over the past decades. World Teachers' Day is an occasion to mark progress and to reflect on ways to counter the existing challenges for the promotion of the teaching profession. This year, World Teachers' Day will celebrate teachers under the theme Leading in Crisis, Reimagining the Future. And this theme is meant to help us to bring attention to the frontline teachers who have shown excellent skills in adapting to the coronavirus disease situation and using a wide range of online tools to make education accessible, fun, creative, and engaging for learners. Our UNESCO Institute of Statistics has reported that over 1.2 billion learners have been affected due to the school closures in response to COVID-19. And as we pass through this highly sensitive and volatile situation, we strongly believe, of course, that it is our duty to ensure that learning never stops. And in order to ensure this, it is the teacher's role, of course, that is of utmost importance in reaching our goals. Dealing with a global pandemic has not been easy for any teacher, and we have heard many stories where teachers have been very innovative and proactive in ensuring that the cognitive development of their students is not hindered. Once again, I would like to applaud all the teachers who have gone out of their way and given their best to maintain continuity of learning for all children. We must realize that teachers have the maximum potential to be the real impact creators in schools across the globe. The impact they create helps to develop a whole new generation, and it is vital that we extend our support to all teachers and acknowledge their efforts. I would like to reassure all stakeholders that UNESCO New Delhi is actively working to support all teachers in South Asia and are currently carrying out a rapid situation analysis study together with our colleagues from UNICEF to assess the impact of COVID-19 on South Asia's education sector. A part of the study will analyze the impact of COVID-19 on teachers, and the results will be presented in accessible formats for the public. We're really hopeful that this will become an important policy tool, which can be capitalized upon, and relevant measures, policy measures, can be adopted to support the teachers. Finally, and most importantly, amidst this global pandemic, I, and together with, of course, all my colleagues, empathize with all the teachers in the South Asia region who have been able to adapt to the changing learning environments and supported all students physically as well as remotely. So let this World Teachers Day be a reminder that teachers will continue to be the backbone of all education systems, and that we should always support all teachers. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Director Eric, for your important message, which beautifully sets the context for this panel. And also thank you for highlighting the importance of teacher support and leading important work in South Asia in advising the governments and the civil society stakeholders on teacher support. Now we go to our General Secretary for SAARC Teachers Federation, Mr. Laxman Sharma. Mr. Sharma would be talking about some of the challenges that the teachers are facing across South Asia. And he's basically from Nepal, so a lot of experiences that he would be sharing may be coming from Nepal. So, Mr. Sharma, we go to you now.
Hello all. First, my greetings to all for this World Teachers Day today. And we are very happy to celebrate this new type of World Teachers Day. First, when the pandemic escalated and closed down started in our region, sub-region, SAARC region, it was March and nearly ending the many countries' sessions, annual sessions. And the school closures were unprepared. Nothing was prepared, just school closed. And obviously, we had no alternative remote access to children and school prepared in large scale. And in private school sector, in Nepal's case, mostly, the teachers couldn't get salary for months and job cut started. This was a huge challenge for more than 200,000 private school teachers in Nepal, and heard same in the other member countries. And when our system asked us to start online, it was very new thing for South Asian teachers, and we were not trained, prepared, and infrastructure was very poor. PCs or electricity even, and Wi-Fi or data was very slow, and education to conduct education lessons, it was very hard. And teachers were not prepared, trained, and it was overloaded for teachers. To make half an hour's lesson, they had to engage some 2 hours, 3 hours to make lessons first. Making lesson was very hard. And it was another challenge. And later on, when months passed away, we had one first. It was to save academic year. To save academic years, we had to do different alternative things to conduct lessons with children. And online we were novice. We were just learning, and it was very hard for the small kids and grown students, high school grown students and small kids. It was hard for motivation. And again, in the small kids, for those who had their parents, mothers mostly, in their own home, were a little bit easier because they keep their kids on their lap and conduct lesson together, mother and children. But in the working class population, mothers were in somewhere field or somewhere other tasks, works, and children were left alone. And so conducting lesson with the small children were typical, I mean, very hard. And as my studies show that our online attempt or remote attempt of conducting lesson was hampered by was in problem by infrastructure, teacher professional development, and software. Another issue was like we had books, paper books, and no digital materials, and to conduct a better lesson via internet technology, we had to have very good softwares or materials, which we hadn't. And although they were in one language, some huge population language, and this native language speaker children were not getting benefits from those English or one national level language materials. This was another issue, and teachers' motivation was, and we were questioned morally. We were teachers, students were left alone without lessons. Moral question was big, but motivation was another thing. We were not getting salary. We are not even in Nepal. We have a huge movement going on. And what makes teachers motivated to learn new things, heavy loaded, and conduct lessons? These were the major challenges, and less than 20% children are getting online remote learning opportunities, and the rest of the youth population are still not getting well. One day school starts, teachers start school, and some 2 or 3 days later, authority calls and say stop your school. Maybe that transmission is going nearby your school area, like this type of notice. Today I'm nearby my school now, and I was there in school and getting call from authority, district administrative authority, to close the school. We had just started 11 days earlier. This is the situation. And in South Asia, Sri Lanka has a little bit better experience, as much I know, and Bhutan and Maldives are doing better, but rest of the part, nearly Bangladesh, Nepal, India, Pakistan, or Afghanistan even, found same.
Thank you, Laxman. Thank you very much for sharing the insights from Nepal mostly, and then also talking about Bhutan and Maldives, and sharing how the teachers are operating without getting proper support, without getting proper salaries, and despite all these challenges, they are motivated. So now I would like to invite Ms. Leila Loupis. She is the Senior Project Officer at the Secretariat of the International Task Force on Teachers for Education 2030. Leila, together with building upon the challenges that Laxman shared, will also talk about some of the best practices, and also talking about the support and enabling education policy environment for the teachers. Leila, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon. I'd like to thank Education International for this wonderful celebration of the world's 94 million teachers today, and also for the opportunity to bring an international perspective to this rich discussion. The Teacher Task Force is a global network. There's about 150 countries and organisations who work together to promote teachers and teaching issues. At the beginning of the COVID crisis this year, there was the overarching impression that amidst the chaos of the school closures and the cacophony of discussions about online learning, the question of the teaching profession was being largely ignored. Bringing together our members, we felt that it was important to issue a call to ensure that teachers are protected, supported, and recognised during the crisis. What we have seen is that teachers around the world are facing the same challenges despite different contexts. So we identified around 5 key challenges and policy areas that need to be addressed for all actors to support, protect, and recognise teachers, and to ensure that learning can continue during the pandemic. The first most important area, as we've just heard from Nepal, is the question of the preservation of wages. We know that around the world, many teachers, in particular in the private sector, have been facing salary cuts and have been simply forced to look for other jobs. Obviously, there's been a strong concern that the crisis is a pretext to lower standards and norms or to push aside labour rights. We have seen, though, examples of governments that have encouraged the private sector to maintain salaries and to ensure that the salaries and benefits of both the teaching and the education support staff are preserved. The second, of course, very important area is the prioritisation of teachers' and learners' health, safety and wellbeing. As we've been working with partner organisations, we've produced guidance for policymakers as well as a toolkit for school leaders on how to support teachers in the return to school process. As part of this, we've been speaking to school leaders from around the world. One of the key messages that we've been hearing is that teachers are anxious. They need socio-emotional support to face the pressure being put on them, to deliver learning at a time of crisis, to stay safe, and as well to support their students in these anxious circumstances. However, according to a recent survey, only 1/3 of countries are offering psychosocial support to their teachers. So obviously this is a very important area that needs to be continued. The third, of course, is something that a colleague has just also referred to, which is the lack of adequate professional support and training. Even before the crisis, we knew that there were still regions of the world where there were severe shortages of trained teachers. Little attention had been given to providing teachers with adequate training on how to ensure learning continues. In a recent survey of OECD countries before the crisis, only 43% of teachers said they were comfortable using ICTs. So there needs to be this space for professional development, and in particular in education budgets and aid responses in a context of shrinking national budgets. The fourth is the question of equity. We know that millions of teachers and learners are off the grid and that the opportunities of distance learning are just not available due to lack of internet connection. Policymakers need to understand that greater support and flexibility will be needed for teachers who work in remote areas with minority communities or with disadvantaged children to ensure that they can keep learning and not be completely left behind. And of course, lastly, and the most important, is the question of social dialogue and the need to include teachers in developing education responses. What we are hearing is that in many countries, teachers were not consulted in school closures. Teachers obviously have a critical role in the recovery phase as schools reopen. They need to be included in all steps of policy making and planning, and it is encouraging to see that in more countries, teachers and representatives are actually being consulted as governments grapple with the school's reopening process. So what we've seen that is in many schools and communities around the world, teachers and school leaders have acted to meet these challenges at their levels with the means available to them. It's encouraging to see a growing number of initiatives to support teachers. Keeping teachers' voices at the centre of these discussions will be key to the continued development of policy responses. I'll stop here. Thank you so much.
And, highlighting the need of support to teachers, particularly around capacity development during the pandemic, in using the new tools and technologies, investing in teachers, equity, importance of social dialogue, and enabling policy environment for teaching and learning to continue in the pandemic. Thank you. And now we go to Professor Pandma Sarangpani. Professor Pandma Sarangpani is the chairperson, Center for Education, Innovation and Action Research at the Tata Institute of Social Sciences, Mumbai, India. She would be talking about effectiveness of teaching learning strategies during the pandemic. Professor Pandma, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Anand. It's great to be here today. We started celebrating teachers on 5th September in India, which is our Teachers' Day. So it's great a month later to be coming together in this World Forum to recall the importance of the teaching profession itself. And I think if one thing the pandemic has taught us, it is how important the profession is. We've realized the limits of online. The person of the teacher will continue to be very important in educating children. And we also have realized both the potential and the limits of the online medium. So I think it's a useful reminder about the profession and its centrality to education itself. I'm going to share a few insights that we have gained from some of our own work. We've been talking to teachers, putting it out in podcasts, and also listening to teachers in our communities of practice that we've established across both our two major field action projects, Connected Learning Initiative and the Integrating Technology in Education Initiative. And what we've learned is that teachers at the local level are trying out a lot of things. The state, of course, is promoting the use of online platforms for learning, as well as encouraging teachers to use WhatsApp and telephone calls to reach out students, especially in the government schooling system, who don't have very easy access to the online medium. We also offered free courses and resources on our own platform, an open education resources, and over 5,000 teachers out of their own interest enrolled to educate themselves about online teaching learning practices. But what we've realized is that more resources are needed in Indian languages to develop teacher capacity. Teachers reporting to us tell us that in addition to these standard platforms, they themselves have explored and discovered tools like Mentimeter, Google Quiz, and Google certification type of resources on the open education resource space. And many of them are actually spending time counseling students after 7 p.m. in the evening, which is when the phone comes back home with the parent and the teacher is able to speak to students in real-time synchronous ways. And what teachers tell us motivates them is when they experience the motivation from their own students. Teachers are telling us what works for them is localization. When they themselves make a video and put it out, students are responding to it much more than some anonymous teacher's video being shown. So more visibility of the local teacher in the life of the student seems to be important. The most important thing that teachers have discovered is the importance of interactivity, and that really is why Google Quiz, Mentimeter, tools like that are getting popular. Teachers have found ways of involving students in recording and carrying out local research projects. And that, they say, it really works because it doesn't need students to be there online all the time. And with younger children, teachers have evolved strategies of involving family and grandparents and doing things other than the standard literacy numeracy type activities, getting craft work, music, activities of that kind done. And my colleagues have very successfully been piloting what we call a web quest, in which teacher and student groups together set out on a quest to discover things on the internet and come back and share it together. So these really work. Anything which enhances interactivity, curiosity, interest, research skills succeeds in the online space. What is not working so well is learning platforms which are data intensive, and teachers across the board are telling us that students don't have access to device, data is expensive, and that's a problem. The lack of short videos that they can share with students is another issue that they are flagging for us, because it is the asynchronous interaction that really seems to be working at this point of time. And our own study shows that teachers' access to computers is very, very limited. Almost 98% have access to smartphones, but only about 30% have access to computer devices. And of course, the issue of the private school employed teachers and their own insecurity as far as their employment is concerned is a huge demotivating factor at this point of time. So thank you. I thought I'll just share these experiences from the ground.
Thank you, Professor Padma. And these are very insightful thoughts, and particularly coming based on your experiences and the studies that you have conducted during the pandemic, and which highlight what has also come up through our survey, where the teachers complained about lack of support, lack of access to the tools, and lack of access to internet among the teachers, among the students, and so on. So which is Thank you for your these remarks. These are some very insightful discussions and insightful information that we received from our panelists, and we would have wanted to continue this discussion for a longer time, to know more about the elements that you shared. But unfortunately, we are a little short on time, so we would not continue here. But we'll take another opportunity to continue this discussion. That's what we started now.